I'm going to welcome up Graham to the stage. We can give him a big old-fashioned welcome. Now, Graham is going to talk about advertising that works, increasing your sales and opportunities. To the advertising maestro. Here's the mic.
I think I'm wired up. They're going to control me, not you, so there you go. I'm all wired up. Good afternoon. I know it's the afternoon session. We all hate the afternoon session. We're all a bit tired and a bit lethargic and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to get you sort of a little bit revved up to start off with. And I want to do it because it's something I've always wanted to do. I wanted to have my big rock star moment. When I was little, my goal was I wanted to be a rock star. So I'm going to do the big rock star moment here in a minute. So let's go. Is everybody having a good time? Yeah. Awesome. That's what we like to hear. My presentation today is almost a bit of a combination of a number of things, okay? So I'm representing the Western Sydney Business Centre and the Business Connect program as a Business Connect advisor today, but I'm also marking a major milestone for my own business. So not last October, the October before, I launched my own copywriting business called WordMax. And today is actually my first official presentation and speaking on behalf of WordMax. So thank you, everybody. But it's also because it's still representing that Business Connect, so it's kind of a bit of a combination of presentations and thinking today. So I'm talking as WordMax, but I've also got to go under the Business Connect brand because that's where my primary income is coming from at the moment. So I can set the tone too. I'm actually in startup mode like a lot of people. I've got a whole new idea for my business that I'm currently working on, okay? So I get it. You know, I was talking to Kerry earlier. I get cash flow. You know, cash flow is like another language in some cases, especially creatives. And the girls who were talking before here would understand that. Us creatives are hopeless when it comes to that money stuff, okay? Which is bad for me to admit as a business advisor, but it's the reality of the situation sometimes. All right. Before I begin, I just want to pay respect to the traditional custodians, First People of New South Wales, and acknowledge their continued connection to country and culture. Okay, let's just go for a step back in time. It's amazing that we're here today and you're now looking at a person who grew up in southwestern Sydney, had a mullet during the 80s, wore Motley Crue t-shirts and jeans with holes in it and probably hung out in all the bad places. And here I am about 30 years later now looking at you lovely people and talking to you about business, all right? And it just goes to show that dream big. All right, you can get there. So I actually started off in this crazy world of advertising as a trainee with Cumberland Newspaper Group. And unfortunately, just over here on Macquarie Street, there's now a big hole in the ground where our head office and printing presses once were. I then made the move from from Cumberland to Fairfax and actually worked on what was at the time Australia's best #1 local newspaper, as in the St George and Sutherland Shire Leader. I then got the opportunity to actually manage my first paper. And that was the Camden Advertiser. And Camden Advertiser was relatively new. When I took over, it was only about 6 months old at the time. And so it was a real test for me to be able to do stuff and learn by my mistakes. And that's the other thing in business, we learn by our mistakes. So it was good to have a paper that was new and small that I couldn't do that much damage to. All right. The good news is I didn't do any damage to it. I actually grew it, which led to me my ultimate goal from when I first got into local newspaper was to actually manage a paper in the suburb that I lived in. So when I started out in papers, my goal was one day I'm going to be the manager of a Liverpool paper, and I did it. That led me later on down the track to managing Penrith's independent paper. I was general manager there for a while, the Western Weekender. Then I went, you know, I'm over papers, I'm over print, and I saw the writing on the wall, and I hate to say it, but in some cases, print is dying. I hate to say it's like the magazine that Mia was talking about this morning. Major business disruptions within the media world, and papers aren't what they once were. The Parramatta Advertiser, which was the #1, it was the first newspaper. It was based on the first newspaper in the colony, is no more. It's a sad state of affairs. So I saw the writing on the wall and jumped into radio and got a gig at Vintage FM in Penrith, 87.6 on the dial. Thank you. With a slogan of old is good. I actually felt like I was back in the lounge room at Mum and Dad's again when I was little because I was hearing all that music that I grew up with as a kid. And it was a really niche thing. It wasn't everybody's cup of tea, so I really had to learn how to actually sell something that wasn't as popular as other mediums and that sort of stuff. So it was a great way of cutting my teeth. So that was between 89 and 2017. Now, as I said, Business Connect advisor, I can now actually give advice for free. Because before I'd go, give me money, and I'll give you some advice. Give me money and I'll help your business. Now I can help your business. And I said, And WordMax is today. And look, like a lot of people when we get excited, I've even got business cards. And that's right. So it's all that sort of stuff that basically happens. So what I did this before is hopefully by now I know what I'm talking about. Okay? And I love this thing called advertising, right? In one of my bios that floats around, I actually put in it that I'm a self-confessed advertising guru because I just love it. I must admit, I have a love-hate relationship with it sometimes, especially when it's done bad. And that's what I want to talk about today, all right? Media representatives, salespeople, agencies and that have a habit sometimes of just racing in, selling you an ad for the dollars so they can meet their targets and not giving you what you need as far as promoting your business. So what I'm about to present you today is just some rules and some tips on how to actually do advertising properly. That's the point. Okay, so for those that don't know, I've got to do the plug. Business Connect's a state government program. You know the reason why you got into business. Our job is to help you with the how. Okay, 4 hours worth of free business advice. If there's some extra hours at the moment off the back of the COVID pandemic, so I think that finishes 30th of March. But generally, it's 4 hours of free business advice, and we look at everything. So you name it. Even though I've already admitted cash flow's a weakness, we can help you with that whole. And there's a couple of clients in the room today that I've dealt with and continue to deal with as well. So it's good to see some clients actually here over the last day or so as well. Okay, so let's talk about advertising. Oh, that's good. I left subtitle up. See, there's a rule for copywriters and for people doing ads. Proofread. What is advertising? Yes, proofread. My wife is now the official proofreader of my business because I can write it, I know what I want to say, but it doesn't always translate properly. Advertising is a design of form of, and I've said paid, okay? I've said paid marketing communication used by companies to promote or sell their products, okay? The reason I said paid is because when the internet came into place and this thing called social media was suddenly born, everybody went, this is fantastic. I can promote my business for free. But it doesn't happen. The scenario years ago was if you opened up a business, you opened up your doors of your business and you told no one that your business was open, you got no customers. But the only way you could do that was to actually pay for advertising. It was an ad in the local paper. It was a listing in the yellow pages. It was a flyer. And if you really had enough money, it might have been an ad on the radio or TV. Today in this marketplace, we just think that we can advertise whatever we want for free and we're going to get business. It doesn't work. You've got to pay in some way, shape or form. Years ago, when I was a trainee back with Cumberland, this is a classic one. We went into a business that I was a trainee. I probably was only about that short back then. And I went in with another rep and this guy goes, oh, I don't advertise. And I would love to have used this, but the rep said, oh, so when are you taking your signs down, throwing your business cards in the bin, taking the signage off your car? What do you mean? That's advertising. So advertising is that communication that tells people, this is what I do and this is how I'm here to help. But to do it properly, unfortunately, when you set your budgets up, you're going to have to pay something. And even printing, when you print a brochure, you're paying for your advertising. It's not what what some other people have been talking about here today about that organic of getting attention and manipulating the algorithms and that sort of stuff. It's a paid form of communication, and it works because people have been paying for advertising for ages, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute too. In ad land, we love our statistics. In fact, there's probably statistics on how many advertising people actually love statistics because we just love generating these sort of reports all the time. But this is interesting. There's 10,000 marketing messages a day that we're bombarded with. And it's everything from if you've got a uniform with a logo on it or you've got a business card or whatever, 10,000 of them. Out of that, 5,000 of those pieces are actually advertising related. What do you think the recall is on how many ads you can actually remember? Anybody want to have a stab? 7. But how's this? Today, so today from driving from Penrith here to Parramatta, walking around the room, jumping on social media this morning, maybe catching up on the Today Show the moment to see what was going on in the news, I can recall 2. Okay, I can recall an ad on the back of a bus for Gina Field from Nepean Regional Security in Penrith, and if you're in Penrith, everybody knows who Gina is, all right? And the other one I can recall is an ad for Bing Lee. And the reason I can do the ad for Bing Lee too is because I love that rapport that the mother and son have got on those Bing Lee radio ads at the moment. Every other piece of ad that has happened between Penrith and Parramatta, I don't remember. So do people remember what you're doing with your advertising? How famous are you in your category? It's an interesting question, isn't it, when you think about it? So how many ads can you think about right now? Probably not that many. So it's imperative that you stand out. The interesting part about it is there's media platforms evolving all the time. You know, and there's even been that talk about TikTok. Now, TikTok to me, and it's probably because I turned 50 last year, that I just sort of go, what? And I remember Snapchat coming out and having the same thought. What the hell? I'm going to put bunnies and I don't get it. Right? But that's the difference between demographics sometimes. But the platforms are evolving. There's always something new. Yeah, while Facebook tends to be the top dog at the moment, it's only a matter of time that someone comes out with something eventually that'll overtake Facebook. I don't know what our friend Mr. Zuckerberg's going to do. I'm sure his mum will have the answer for him because she dresses him when he goes to see the Senate in America. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Just that whole Senate thing with Mark Zuckerberg just still cracks me up. But the rules of advertising have stayed the same, and we're talking about the rules, and that's what we're going to do now, is talk about those rules. Okay, and I've left subtitling again. Gee, I'm good. All right, rule number 1. Now, what I will say too is these rules have been around for a long time, and they've been around for a long time because they work. How many people watch Mad Men series? Okay, these are those guys that's based on invented these rules. Bewitched, Darren, what's her name's husband? He was in advertising. The rules he used are the rules we're still using today. And now that I'm about to show you how these rules work, and I guarantee you pick up, there's not many around, I know, newspapers, or see an ad on something or other, and you're going to start to pick these rules and how they're actually used. Okay, so know your customers. There's been lots of talk about this already today. And I must admit that's one of the best things about today, and even I got some stuff out of the girls earlier this afternoon in terms of creating some content for myself, right? And it's about that understanding of your customers. How many people know the 4 Ps of marketing? Anybody remember if they've done marketing, the 4 Ps? Why are we still using the 4 Ps? The 4 Ps are actually invented out of the idea of supply and demand. And for those that can't remember commerce or economics at school, supply and demand was you have a factory, you build a whole lot of widgets, then you employ a whole lot of salespeople and you do lots and lots of advertising to create a demand. And then you hope that people buy them. We're not in this world anymore. It's customers. So now, instead of using the 4 Ps, I encourage everybody to think about the 4 Cs. Get your crayons out and your pens and your pencils. And here we go. The 4 Cs are customers. And it's basically what everybody's been talking about here today, understanding your customers. What do they want? What are their needs? What are their interests? What are their backgrounds? Where are they? Who are they? That sort of stuff. Cost. And I'm not talking about the physical cost of what you're selling. I'm talking about the overall picture of cost. How many parents have brought an Xbox or a PlayStation for their kids? Okay, the cost is not just the $600, $700, $800 whatever it was for the little machine. It's the cost of the games. It's the cost of the data they're going to chew up. It's the cost of the credits that they need to buy for a new skin or a new weapon or whatever it is. It's the cost of your time to set the bloody thing up in the first place. It's the cost of, when they drop a console and it smashes in a million pieces on the floor. It's the cost of, Dad, it's not working again. They're all costs. And they're costs that impact on the buying decision and they're costs that impact on the overall experience. So cost is a huge one, and it's the cost from the customer's point of view you need to think about. The other one is the convenience, how easy it is to buy it. I don't know how many times I've gone onto websites to find some information or to buy something and I'm jumping around all over the place. And then I go, you know what, stuff it, I'm just going to go to the shops and buy it. So convenience is a big one too. And the last one in these 4 Cs is the communication. So how you actually communicate what you're actually selling. So forget the 4 Ps. The New World Order is now the 4 Cs. So that's when we think about customers. Know your media. And as I said before, there's no use me using TikTok because I know that my customers, in terms of this new idea I've got, aren't on TikTok at the time. They're going to be on LinkedIn because I'm aiming at business-to-business people. Okay? It's the same thing as, and find out where they're communicating, where they're shopping, where they're sharing, and where they're learning things. And that's the medium to actually use. If you have a local paper in your area and you're a local business and you're targeting over 50s, keep advertising in the paper because they're the people that grew up with local papers that are still using them. In fact, if you are a business in an area that has a local paper and you're targeting other businesses, advertise in there because those business owners that are advertising in that product pick up the paper every week to see if their ad's in there, and hopefully they'll come across seeing yours. That was one of my big things I used to use when I sold advertising. If you're promoting to businesses, sit next to another business because that business owner is going to see your ad. So know your media, okay? Radio is a big surprise. Radio is not as expensive as everybody thinks it is. And the beauty about radio is you can say the same thing over and over again, and it's one-on-one personal communication. And it's the best one-on-one personal communication in the world. I'm not saying that because I worked in it for 7 years, and I still love it, but it works. And whether it's the local community, whether it's your community radio station or your local station or one of the big ones, they've got some great deals at the moment for small business. So if you want to mass market, radio is a great way of doing it too. But know your media. Know your point of difference. Let's go back to the days of yellow pages and local newspapers. I need an electrician. So I had two choices. One, open up the yellow pages. And for those that are young and don't know what the yellow pages was, it was a big printed book that was basically like Google, but it was worded. And it was yellow. Thank you. All right, so those younger people, it was basically a big book. It was a great doorstop, by the way, too. But it was basically Google, but a printed form of it. Okay. I had to do that. But you want an electrician, so you go to the section of and I'm going like that because sometimes those bloody yellow pages were huge, and you go through electricians, and they all said the same thing. We install lights, we do cabling, we do, all this sort of stuff. But why was I going to pick this guy on this right-hand page to the guy that was on the left? And some of them got smart too, because some of them started to call themselves AA electrician because they thought they were at the top of the list and that's where people would go. Then it became a war of ad size. So I think, I know what my point of difference is. I'll make my ad this big, but I'll still say the same stuff as the guy who's got an ad this big. But if they actually put out what their point of difference is, what made them different to everybody else, they would have got heaps of business. There's an urban myth in classified advertising that goes back years ago for print. And there was a plumber, right? And the urban myth was, this is what the plumber had in his ad. We don't smell. Because at that stage, your plumbers were always seen as, the butt crack and all the rest of it. But that's what it was. We don't smell. That was the point of difference. I had a hairdressing client years ago who, it was one, the business awards roll around and the local paper rings you up and goes, you're a finalist, would you like to buy an ad in our feature? So I had a hairdresser who actually won the award. Also, she just decked out her whole thing with marble and that sort of stuff. And I said, we can advertise that, but I guarantee it's not going to work. All right? Take your full page and turn it into 4 quarter pages. Do one to say you're a finalist and do the other 3 to promote your business and promote your point of difference. She goes, I don't know what it is. So we'll ask your customers. Turns out her point of difference was not the awards or the marble and the mirrors and that sort of stuff. It was because she had great coffee. And that's what we based the ad on. That was the point of difference. Promote one thing at a time. It goes back to the electricians again. They'd always promote every service that they possibly offered, right? And you may not necessarily need that service, but the beauty about it is that you can leverage your other things off one main thing. Bunnings and IKEA do it really smart. You go into Bunnings to buy one thing and there's all that lost leader stuff at the front and you buy a million different things. But you've probably seen an ad for a new barbecue and that's what you're going in for, is to buy the barbecue. One thing. But you'll walk out with 10 or 15 things. So pick one thing and leverage everything off the back of that. And that one thing should be about what we've spoken about today in general. What is the need of the customers? What is the gap that I'm filling? Pick one thing and one thing only. Don't fill it up. It used to drive me nuts. A 10 by 2 in newspapers used to be like a cigarette type packet, and clients would want to fill it up with everything they did. And then, the ad looks squashy. But if they actually picked one thing and in big words spoke about it, they would have got a better response. White space. I looked so hard to find a graphic to go along with this slide for white space. I hope I was going to get a reaction, but white space is essential. The beauty about white space is if you're using lots of colours in your ad and you've got lots of clutter, your message is going to suffer. And just wandering around today, look at this, white space. White space, white space. If you want your message to get through, let it shine and use white space. And it's interesting now, if you look at the social media platforms, what do they use? White space. For your message, your content, it's all white space because it's based again on this rule that's been around for a long time of white space is key. Colour's another one too. When they first brought full colour into newspapers, Every advertiser wanted to use every colour of the rainbow. Clubs were especially. Club advertising was crazy. They wanted purple for housey, and they wanted pink for bingo, and they wanted yellow for the live band, and green for the... And their brand was blue. So don't use all the colours of the rainbow. Again, colour can actually take away from your message. And if you've spent lots and lots of hours, again, we'll talk about costs here, if the cost of hours is important. If you spent hours developing a brand and coming up with the right colour to suit your business, that's all you need to do. Because the idea is, here's the thing, whenever I say red, what's one of the first brands you think of? Absolutely. So if you've got a brand colour, stick to the brand colour. You don't need to use it. Unless it's spring or Christmas or something like that, you might alter it to suit whatever's happening, but just stick to the one colour. The old saying, a picture speaks 1,000 words. You know, I used to do ads. Furniture ads was what I used to hate. We used to do furniture ads. Back then, we used to actually have to cut around the photos by hand. You know, deep etching on Acrobat programs was non-existent. We physically had to... Yeah, I hated square tyres on car ads because whoever cut out was just lazy and would just go instead of going around like that. But there'd be a million cars on a page with all the pricing. What? That's too much. Pick the car of the week and advertise that. And then people will spend time walking around the showroom. So compelling pictures are key. But make sure the pictures relate to what you're talking about. And all this is going to tie in nicely soon, and I'm on track. Number 8, use headlines. Headlines are almost like, you remember your red light special that came up? Okay? Or if you're a Kath and Kim fan, it's the look at me, look at me. In fact, Mia said something interesting this morning. Mia said that, actually it wasn't Mia, it was Brooke. Brooke was talking about saying something interesting before you start going for the sale. Same thing applies with a headline. Capture their attention, all right? And capture their attention in a way that actually works. Because if you actually go in there and start naming the name of your business and people don't know who you are, why are they going to continue reading? And that was another thing we used to see, and I still see advertising today. It's the name of the business is the first thing you see. If I'm a new customer, I don't know what they are. I don't know what they do. Why am I going to stop and read it? But if it was an actual headline that said, stop and read this, I'd probably stop and read it. And you can do all sorts of wonderful things with headlines. But there's some tips. Make sure the headline is related to the copy. Make sure the headlines are related to the photos. If you ask a question in a headline, make sure you answer it in the copy. Or if you make a fantastic statement, make sure you answer it in your copy. The way headlines are presented has changed, Bart, because that's one thing that social media has done is change layouts and that sort of stuff, but we'll talk about that in a sec too. Create compelling content. There's been enough talk about this today, and I think every speaker who's got up here so far today and spoken about content has nailed it every time, okay? Compelling content, storytelling content is crucial to what you need. And I think what Mia was talking about this morning, it's content from that walking in the shoes of your customers is a fantastic way of looking at it. And it's what we were talking about earlier about, you know, nailing who it is that you're talking to and that sort of stuff. And it was the stuff before about, you know, the I's versus the you in the words that you use, okay? That's why I asked the question earlier, if you're in the room before, about how long your content should actually be. Because a lot of times it's dictated also by what media you're using, and it's also dictated by how much space or platform or that sort of stuff that you're often advertising on as well, okay? Rule number 10, call to action. This one is the biggest failure that, and I can't believe that it's 30 years and I'm still talking to people about have a strong call to action. And it sounds ridiculous at this day and age, we've got to tell people what to do. You know how they go, I don't like being told what to do. But we're still telling them what to do because we've got to tell them what to do to how to respond to the message. Newspaper ads for a while there, especially when the internet came in. This is what newspaper ads used to look like. Address, phone number, website, fax number, email address. What do you want me to do? Butcher shops. I used to love butcher shops that would do massive big phone numbers and little address. When was the last time you rang your butcher about how much sausages are? Google's one of the best things for advertising now, especially in radio when we write scripts, because instead of worrying about putting down addresses and all that sort of stuff, we just say Google us. top of mind awareness is essential in this sort of stuff, because if you create the top of mind awareness, you don't necessarily need to have a budget for Google AdWords, because instead of someone putting in hairdresser, they're going to put in Jan's hairdresser and you're going to come up top. And you do it through all this sort of stuff. And that's the thing, it might even be Google Jan's hairdressing. Tell them what you want them to do. Don't let it hanging. And it doesn't matter what sort of thing you're doing, tell people. If you're doing an elevator pitch at a networking event and you get to the end of your elevator pitch, tell them what the next step is. So if you want to have a coffee with me, I'll be outside after. It's a call to action. All right, bit of a quick case study. I love Volkswagen's advertising. It's one of the first bits of advertising I was ever introduced to. Volkswagen are the best when it comes to advertising, and you can see how all this stuff is about to fit together. While they've gone through a transition in terms of what their brand has looked like over the years, their advertising has remained the same, okay? They always add some sort of humour to it, all right? And that humour is always reflected in the fact that you just see a Volkswagen and it puts a smile on your face. You see a combi van and it puts a smile on your face. But they follow the rules, all but one, which we'll talk about too. But they follow these rules, and they follow these rules, it doesn't matter what format, they follow those rules, and you'll see what I was talking about. So this is back from the 50s, 60s. This is your standard Volkswagen ads. Big photo. Oh, I've got a thing. Big photo, headline, body copy. This one here's an interesting, and again, it's humour. Oops, how do I go back, guys? There's no going back. Oh. Okay, here we go. It's all about the humour of the brand, right? So in this case, guy pushing his car, and the headline is, and if you run out of gas, it's easy to push. The wording actually goes like this. See, we think of everything. Getting a Volkswagen to the side of the road is a pushover. Then it continues on, this is the best part, it then continues on, I haven't got time to read the whole thing out, but it then talks about the fact that we're not surprised that Volkswagen owners don't run out of petrol more often to be able to do this and prove our point, but our mileage is really, really good. It's not huge amounts of copy, but it's here. See, photo, headline, body copy. The only thing they didn't do back then was a call to action. And I think it was because everybody back then knew that if you wanted to buy a car, you just went to your dealer. Where now it's you can go online or look at a review on YouTube or whatever the case may be. But the rules are there. Interesting part about that is when they relaunched the Beetle decades ago, what did they do? Exact same ad. If you have a brand, stick to it. And Kerry and I from CBA were talking about this. All right, I'm going to do an exercise, guys. Which bank? There you go, Kerry. Now, Commonwealth haven't used which banks for I don't know how long, but we remember it. Why did they change it? It's the same as home hardware. Remember the little plasticine dogs? You saw those plasticine dogs, you thought of home hardware. They changed it. So stick to your brand. Let's fast forward to today. This is a Volkswagen Facebook ad now. And check it out, the principles are there. White space, one of my favourite things. Their headline, they've been smart, and they've actually, in one of the earlier workshops before, captions got brought up. Their caption is, look, Ma, no hands. Again, it's that humour thing that Volkswagen does so well. Interesting part of it is there's a little call to action hiding here, which is see more. And if you go to see more, with front and rear parking sensors, nifty LED cornering lamps and assist, the T-Cross is jam-packed with goodies. See what else is with the T-Cross, click here. Call to action. The content is brief, but it's to the point, and it fits in with the idea of, look, Ma, no hands. Platforms have changed, but the rules still fit. And that was the whole thing I was trying to get across today. Oh, I'm actually on time for a change. This is amazing. My last final thought. Someone said before, be consistent. The extension of that and the next phase of that, repetition builds reputation. Keep doing it as over and over again as much as you possibly can. One of the common questions, and I'm sure our social media people that have spoke earlier, or if you're a social media consultant and that sort of stuff, business coaches as me, is how often should I promote myself? Yes, there's those people out there that say the more you do it, the better it is, but it's that consistency. So if you're going to do a Facebook post once a day, every week, make sure you do it on the same day, same time each week, because your audience will get used to when you're doing it. That's how it goes. Oh, it's Friday. I wonder what Olivia's talking about today. I've got a conveyancer client who does Tuesday testimonials and Friday funnies. That's their social media campaign. But every Tuesday and every Friday, their audience knows that content's happening. Be consistent, repetition builds reputation. So hopefully I've given you some insight into this wonderful world that we call advertising, guys. Last thing is, and it's part of Business Connect, but it's a real strong one too. It's been a really full-on last couple of years, all right? As business owners, sometimes the littlest thing can send us into a spiral, okay? So if you need help, ask. And if you know people that need help too, reach out, because we've got to look after each other when it comes to mental health. Thank you, everybody, for your attention, for your attention. And it's been a pleasure, and I have to thank Andrea for allowing me to come along and talk too. So thanks very much.
So much. Okay, another round of applause, everyone. Keep forgetting my mic. Don't forget those business cards. Stunning. I think it's really important to try and go back to basics sometimes with advertising in a world that can be very overwhelming and digital. Have we got everyone back from the other room yet? Are we aware? Christine? Think so? I'd like to invite Michael from the Black Dog Institute, one of our sponsors today. If you want to come up and have a chat to us about mental health at work, that'd be awesome. Welcome, Michael, please.
Hi everyone. Oh, are we going on this one? Okay. Great. So yeah, I'm Michael. I'm from the Black Dog Institute. I just have a quick 5 minutes to run through some of the programs that we have on offer that are available to you. So I've worked at Black Dog for the last 7 or 8 years as an engagement manager, looking at getting mental health education out into the world. I've also been a lived experience presenter, so I deliver my story of my lived experience of mental illness, and I like to share that story to encourage action and to break down the stigma around mental illness and help encourage other people who might be struggling to reach out for help. So the reason I'm here today is that we've received funding from the New South Wales government to deliver our workplace programs to businesses across New South Wales. So predominantly the businesses we're focusing on are small businesses and medium businesses. And we've delivered training to 25,000 people so far. So this is part of the New South Wales Mentally Healthy Workplaces strategy, which was initiated in 2018, and they're looking for about 90,000 businesses to take effective action in creating a mentally healthy workplace. So why do we want a mentally healthier workplace? So I'm just going to run through a couple of statistics to lay the seed for that. So at any one time, 1 in 6 people, 1 in 6 workers are struggling with a mental illness. And 50% of managers and people looking after their team don't believe that someone is struggling with a mental illness in their workplace. So you can see there's a bit of a disconnect there already. The mental illness costs the Australian economy almost $40 billion annually. And if someone is to take off work due to a mental illness, the average time that they're off work for is 11 weeks. So it's quite significant. And then finally, one of a quite distressing fact really is that suicide is the leading cause of death between 15 to 45-year-olds in Australia. So those statistics tell us that mental illness is very common, it's very prevalent, but it's also very serious. And it is something that is worth thinking about. And when we think of the fact that we spend a third of our adult lives at work, and that work has the potential to improve our mental health in terms of providing us with a sense of purpose, social connection, money as well. I think that's good for mental health. But it's also, it can provide a negative effect on our mental health, which I think I don't really need to go through that. I think we've all experienced that at some point or another. So it's really an opportunity for us to help improve each other's mental health. So that's what we're trying to do with our programs. So at the moment we have 3 programs that are available, and if you've come up and talked to either myself or Lucy today, we will have talked through these programs to you, but for those that haven't had a chat with us, the 3 programs that we have on offer are one for leaders and business owners, and that's a program around creating an environment and creating a mental health workplace that is positive, to include great strategies and embed mental health strategies in your workplace. We also have training for managers and for people leaders and people that are looking after teams. So that's around how to look after your team. So if someone might be struggling with a mental illness or you're concerned about someone, what to look out for, what changes in behaviour might indicate that they're struggling with a mental illness, how to have that conversation with them. So it can be quite hard reaching out and knowing what the right thing is to do and to say. A lot of people are worried that they might say the wrong thing or make things worse. So we talk through how to have those conversations, what the right action is to take. We also talk about the responsibilities that you have as a manager and as an employer. And then we talk about what supports are available and what services there are. And then finally, we also have a program generally for staff and for sole traders. And so that's around looking at building your own resilience in your workplace. It's also looking at if you're concerned about yourself or maybe a team member, what to do in that situation. We talk about disclosure as well, so whether what the implications are of disclosing in a workplace and whether this is going to be a positive thing for you or maybe not. Hopefully you're in a workplace that's accepting of that and disclosure is actually a really positive thing. But that's a bit more of a nuanced conversation that we can have in these programs. And so these programs that we have on offer, they're delivered by clinical psychologists or psychiatrists who have a lot of experience delivering these kinds of training programs and a lot of experience in workplace mental health. As I've mentioned, we've delivered it so far to 25,000 people, so it is very popular, and 99% of people who have done the training would recommend it to other people, and 99% of people said that they would implement ideas that they've learned from our training. So really, once we've got people in the door and doing the training, it is really effective and people are getting a lot out of it. As I mentioned, it is funded by the New South Wales government, so it is free. I feel like sometimes when something is available for free, the value of it could potentially be discounted, but we actually, this is only funded by the New South Wales government, so in any other state, it costs businesses to get our training. It would be great if other state governments pick this up. So we're trying to encourage that, but for the time being, it's just in New South Wales. And so if you want to know more about the training, you can register through the New South Wales government website. So there's a link there, a QR code. You can also just go on the New South Wales government website and there'll be a tile there that says mentally healthy workplaces. And if you click through to that, then that will take you to the registration form and you can sign up for that. So I know that was a very quick run through there. Didn't have too much time, but I hope that at least having this short conversation will help spark maybe some conversations and maybe you'd like to take action. And if it's not our programs, it's just something to consider. Maybe there's something else out there. Maybe there's something suited for you. It doesn't have to be what we offer, but really I think it's really important that workplaces have conversations about mental health and that we really consider it because, we're all human beings, we're all hopefully empathetic people and we want to look after each other and to make sure that our friends and our co-workers are doing well. So I think it's something that's worth keeping in mind. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's definitely something to take advantage of if you can. Now we are going to, it's really nice that these seats are here. I've been thinking about sitting here. Everyone can tell I'm working really hard today, so I'm going to take a seat for myself. But we're about to welcome Nicholas from Active Parramatta. He's the Senior Healthy Lifestyle Officer and he'll be facilitating a brief wellbeing stretch session designed to be simple yet effective and be applied while you're working. Hello, Nicholas.
Hi, everyone. You can hear me. Excellent. Thank you.
Stunning. I'm going to get out of the way. Don't make me stretch on stage.
Okay. No, that's all right. So thank you very much for allowing me some time to come into your conference. It sounds really amazing. But I wanted to bring some value to you, especially when we're all working and tied to a desk or tied to our work. So while we're all sitting, this is really interactive and I want you to join me. So sitting up nice and tall, basically what I want to do is talk about two main key areas that we're all kind of suffering is lower back pain and shoulder and neck pain. So while I'm sitting here, just want you to copy what I'm doing. Now, it's really important to reduce tension and stress while we're working. So the main areas we do really kind of build that tension is that lower back. So you can imagine sitting for such a long time, our body builds up tension, which creates stress and byproducts in the body. So we talked about, all this productivity. So by just simply sitting at a desk and tired to work, we're really reducing productivity due to that pain and discomfort that we will be building up. So really simple is just start moving as much as you can. We can generally lose focus and concentration, and that really reduces productivity, especially when we're not in that positive mindset. We can be, reduce our efficiency by up to 33%. So sitting up nice and tall for me, right hand on the left leg, and I want you to twist the back and opening up the lower back to help release that tension. So these are things that you can just apply while you're reading. If you're in an interview, stuck at reading emails all day, you can't get up and actually move. And just apply these really simple techniques. When we come back to center, left hand or right knee, and a big gentle rotation. So I'm just trying to open up my back. I'm trying to release tension, which is built up by just being stagnant. If you can imagine my back is, if I'm sitting like this and that lower back's going to cause all that tension, then it's really going to create pressure on my hips, going to around my pelvis, actually going to be creating upper back pain, neck pain. And once you get headaches coming in, you're not very productive. So if I was reading an email, quite simply looking over my shoulder and be productive and work. You can be on the phone, working, things like that. So I'm going to try and keep these really simple for you. So this one here is my go-to, and I did have a little bit of music to play, so let's put it in the background. So from here, another one really powerful, but I know you probably might not have the limit, it might be limited depending on what you're wearing, is to drop this knee down to the ground. So you can imagine our hip is flexed the whole day, or we're sitting for a long time. That tension in the hip, we can get tightness, pain, irritation, just by sitting up and opening that knee. We're opening up the body, releasing tension in the hip, which is going to stop the rounding or the pelvis tilting, which creates back pain. It's all connected. So there's two really simple stretches. This is really effective. While reading, watching YouTube, things like that, I'm just mindful of how much time I have and adding some rotations in. So our brain, mental health, well-being connected to our physiology. If we're really tight under stress and we've got all this stress built up, it's going to create stress in the mind, and you won't be able to focus. You're not going to be as productive. So I wanted to show you some techniques. So while we're working, I'm going to show you some shoulder stretches and also balance it out. So you just rotate the other side and you always balance out. And one good tip is when you're doing these stretches, you're going to feel one side is tighter than the other, or you're going to find where you're imbalanced. Just stretch a bit more in that position. Before we go on the shoulder, really quickly, who sits like this and tends to type while they're talking or they're sitting and thinking? This is a great stretch, but you're going to imbalance yourself. So while I'm sitting like this, my glute on my right side is getting a great stretch, but I'm tightening up here. That's going to create imbalance. So do this stretch. It's actually really good, but just change it up. Balance your body out. And these are just some tips that you can apply for yourselves, your colleagues, whoever you're with, and just be mindful to take care of your health. Now, to come up to the neck and shoulders, which is a really important thing, you can imagine we're working like this all day, reading, whatever it is. Let's oppose this movement. So by having rounded shoulders, all this is becoming tight and tense, and you're going to create neck pain, shoulder, and even like numbness and tingling in the fingers. I'm not sure if you have experienced that, but it can happen. So let's oppose this movement by simply palms up. So just practice this, palms up, bring the arms out to the side. The most effective way to release shoulder and neck pain, period. This is from here, just rotating the palms, and you can feel the difference in your neck. This is going to release tension which is going to help reduce neck and temporalis pain, which is like headaches and things like that. So you can, by simply just rotating, bring the arms out to the side, palms up to the ceiling, bring the arms slightly back, and now you've got an amazing chest opener, neck, shoulder, which is really going to help. I guarantee it. And this is all drug-free and natural interventions. And even just practice while you're on the spot, rotating the palms up and around. And I'm going to wrap this up in a moment because we're nearly out of time. By clenching your fists, rotating up and around, we're going to be releasing tension in the forearms by doing all this kind of Tai Chi, yoga kind of stuff. But everybody's human. We all share the same physiology. I really wanted to try and apply something for you that you can do while you're seated. So remember your stretches, you can add them in, you can layer them up and multitask, because hey, guys can multitask too. And then you can be super productive while you're working and reducing that tension and pain and increase productivity for you in your workplace. So I hope you really found something really beneficial from that. I know it was really brief, but thank you for your time, and I tried to be on time. So thank you very much, and I hope you did enjoy that. I don't know what else to do. Okay.
Thank you so much for that one. Feeling energized now. And who is ready for a champagne? Me. No, what are you still doing here? Get out of here. So I'd really love to invite Andrea up to say a few words, and we're going to have a bit of a panel discussion now. Do you have a lapel mic? No, this one?
No, I'm taking yours. Sorry, Britt. I'm taking her mic. Hi. Are we a bit brain tired now? Was the stretch good? This is going to be really like chill. Okay, you don't have to think much in this next bit, right? But when we did this last time at the last conference, this is where some of, that Cara, that's you, babe. This is where some of the gold is. Because we're going to be talking to some people who have actually been at our conference today. And we're going to have, we're just going to share some of our stories and what we did. So I'm going to ask you all to come up, and then I'm going to introduce you. So come on up, don't be frightened. Come on, Judith. Come on, Rebecca. Come on, Cara, come and take a seat. It's not scary up here. Look, it's just it's all good. No one will mind. And we're all going to chill. Are we feeling good? But we're brain fried, right? We've had so much going. Oh, hello, Jara. Awesome. So I'm going to introduce our beautiful panel, who I think are all mic'd up. So what I'll do is I'll introduce them all, and then we can give them their lovely round of applause. So first of all, to my left, I have Jara Brayley. Some of you have been to Jara's session today. Oh, sorry, Chrissy's arm was up, and I could see at the distance, and I thought she was waving to me. So Jara started her company at age 19, and she spent 3 years building a social media marketing agency, a team of 5, and a portfolio of incredible clients from all over the world, as well as a loyal community online at SBJ Studios. Social media is her jam, and I think Jara is going to be great on our panel today. Next, we have Cara Cooper. Some of you know Cara from Mount Vic and Me. That was established in 2013. I've actually known Cara for about, 17 years or something, from the first, a long time, when she used to make handbags. So she doesn't even have that business anymore. Cara's quirky and original collection of art, tea towels, T-shirts, socks, great socks. I have numerous pairs of her socks. Cushions, wallpaper, mugs, greeting cards and fabrics are created in a fabulous 100-year-old cafe on the highway in Mount Victoria. And I can just share that Cara told me that her business has grown 700% in the last little while, so that's amazing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Then we have Judith. Hi, Judith.
Hi.
Together with her husband, Judith established NutriCraft in Australia, a multi-award-winning business that promotes safe, smart and healthy cooking with titanium stainless steel cookware. Judith has 2 teenagers, works full-time in a corporate position, and recently became an internationally holistic mind, body and nutrition coach as well. Very high-achieving woman, has no time. And last but certainly not least is Rebecca Denoa. So Rebecca Denoa is the owner of Soap de Villa. Many of you have tried her soap. She's put soap in our awards goodie bags before. Amazing goat's milk soap. And also in 2019, Rebecca was part of the export trading mission to Shanghai, China. And in 2021, she was one of the finalists for Koshi's Back to Business competition. She's also been part of the judging committee for 2021, the Stevie's Awards for Women in Business, and the 2022 Asia Pacific Stevie Awards. So can you give them all a hand? Aren't they all amazing? What I would really love is if you have a question or you really want to know something, please, we've got our mic there, just jump up, because we're just going to start the ball rolling with a couple of questions. So I want you all to think about your business over the last few years and what is the one, well, what's not the one, what's one standout activity that you undertook that has worked really well in your business? What was it and what difference did it make? Who'd like to go first? Or you want me to nominate you?
I could go first.
Judith, go for it.
Yeah. One thing that accelerated my business is actually niching down. So knowing to know who are my perfect customers. When I started way back 2018, I actually had this dream. I want Nutricraft to be in every single household in Australia. That's a big dream, wasn't it? But I could dream. You know, it's free. Why not? Okay? But then 2019, 2020, we had the pandemic. We're all locked down. And then I started seeing who are my customers. 99% are actually families. You know, families, they've got 2 children, husband and wife, and they're in Australia. So by niching down, I can actually find the perfect customers that wants my product. It's just a matter of getting my message right and getting my message out there online. So probably your question with me is, I'm now on my 3rd year. What would I change? I would probably be more braver, courageous in saying, you know, my message, who I am. You know, I should have probably more courageous and braver.
I don't think you should shoot on yourself. I think you're doing very, very well, Judith, by the way. How did you find your niche? Like, did you go to your client base? Did you go to the data from your customers? Is that where you did, or did you get external help?
I think like all of us in here, we don't know everything. So one thing that I've learned is get the right mentor. I always say, you know, choose a person like you, Andrea. Look at the ladies around you. Look for someone that you could basically say, I want to be like her. You know, I want to be mentored by that person that has been there where I wanted to be. So, for example, Andrea here, not that I'm trying to patronize you, Andrea, okay? But say, for example, you are surrounded with these amazing ladies here, okay? And you'd say, hang on, I want to be that someday. So that's why I'm here, right? So your time, find the right mentor, a right mentor or coach that bring out the best in you. Bring out, get that person that no matter what, you're up and down, you know, she has her own challenges. I've seen Andrea as well, her post that she's also gone through, but she never stopped being there when I email her or reach out to me. So you may not be seeing me all the time active because I have a full-time job. So I am an Oracle, I have a full-time Oracle NetSuite System and Solutions Manager. I have to actually start early today to be here because I want to be surrounded with you ladies too, okay? So
she's built a business, but she still works full-time in a corporate role in a management job. Like, that just blows my mind. Can you imagine doing all that you do and having a full-time corporate job? Goodness me. Thank you, Judith. Jara, what about you?
I would say it wasn't a moment, it was more a shift in my mindset. I think for the first year that I was in business, I got really busy really quickly, and I'm sure a lot of you have had that experience where you're just so bogged down in the doing, and I just found that I really stunted my growth by taking on heaps of work and saying yes to everybody. Because I was so caught up in the doing of my business that I didn't actually have time dedicated to look at my business from bird's eye view and look for opportunities and have the time to take advantage of those opportunities for my business. So I'd say, yeah, my shift in mindset was actually purposely and intentionally dedicating that time to working on my business instead of always in it. So whether that means you work with a mentor, or whether that means you need to hire somebody and invest in somebody to take some of that load off of your plate so that it frees up your time to work in that business development side of your business. But yeah, 100% is that shift in mindset and prioritising the vision and not the doing.
Good answer. Cara, I'm looking at you.
I think similarly to what everyone's saying, but for me, I was trying to be everything to everyone. So we had online, we had wholesale, and we had retail. I was exhausted. It was too much, and trying to do that in Mount Victoria is, I mean, I might as well bash my head against the wall. It was ridiculous. There's nothing there. So COVID for us meant shut the doors in retail. And suddenly our space has become this huge manufacturing area. You know, we've got warehousing, we've got stuff there now ready to go, and business has boomed.
So you mean you're just selling directly rather than trying to find wholesalers to have your product?
So
because that's a completely different
So we've got online and wholesale.
market,
We've ditched retail.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's just so much better.
So much better.
Okay, did you hear that, people? That's ditch one.
Yes, the same.
Rebecca?
Okay. I think for me it's a couple of things. Like first of all, I found a coach. So I'm a Christian, and I know in the Bible there's actually a lot of wisdom to teach you how to build a business. So I want to find someone actually in line with that belief. And by having that, my coach actually pulled me to the ground because, like everyone says, when you're that busy, okay, you can be floating everywhere, and you can actually have so much idea, and you're lost in that. And second thing, I think it doesn't matter what religion or what you believe. In the end of the day, we face a lot of mental challenge. And I think we need something, just like a boat. We need an anchor to hold us, to draw the strength, because in the difficult time, that's what we need. So that's what I decided to do. And the second thing is I start to kind of take opportunity, because in the past, when I see the opportunity coming, I would tend to be overthinking, because I would start to think, I was start wondering what is involved, can I do what's in that? So by the time, a lot of times I would talk myself out of it. So when I entering the Koshi's, so last year Koshi has a competition. I asked myself, I said, what have I got to lose to enter that? Okay, I mean, to be honest with you, I just entered, I didn't even think much about to be honest, I actually forgot all about it until I received an email from Koshi's assistant. I actually had to call her to make sure it wasn't a scam email. And then she said, no, that's actually legit, you know. And then I realized what's involved, because I had to do two video, and then they would turn that into a marketing material, which they actually put on their website for the public to vote. And they will actually put that on their social media, on the YouTube, as well as they send it out to their database. And that was something, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't reading properly, because by the time when I read the email what's involved, my first thought was, what have I got myself into? You know, so I think sometimes, so I start to do things that are kind of like, you know, what have I got to lose? So I look at all different opportunity, and a lot of times I was really surprised, because I basically go, I couldn't believe I actually got that opportunity. But if I really overthinking, I probably would just go, you know what, I probably can't do it, and then we just forget about it.
Awesome. So if we flip this to challenges, can you share an example of a challenge? And in particular, I'd love to share what area of your business it is, because, you know, as business owners, we wear all the hats. Okay, so if we dispatch and send out goods, we do dispatch. We answer the phone, we fulfill the orders, we do the service, we do everything. So if you can think of a challenge, what area of your business was it in? Was it operations? Was it marketing? Was it systems? Was it sales? Who would like to share?
I'll share something. Yeah, so recently I had probably one of the most challenging weeks of my business life, and it was because I hadn't really, I guess, niched down on the type of client that I wanted to be working with, and we were saying yes to every single client without, I guess, thinking about the little red flags that pop up that indicate that we're probably not the best fit. So what ended up happening is we were working with this client, we were over-servicing them, we'd been working with them for months, but it just got to the point where it was such a toxic relationship because their expectations were just way too high, and we were doing everything we could to meet them, but we just couldn't. And it got to the point where my team, it was causing them anxiety, it was causing the whole team anxiety. So that was a huge challenge. I guess if my team is struggling, it just means that the business isn't working as well as it should be. So essentially what I had to do is, well, what that taught me was that I really need to hone down on the types of clients I want to work with, really establish the expectations from the get-go, and just be really clear on who it is I want to interact with my business to protect not only the business, but the team.
Who understands and has been where Jarrah is? Yeah, definitely. So when you say red flags, give us an example that you missed.
Yeah, I think it was probably what I experience is because I'm 23, a lot of my clients are at least double my age, and I think one red flag that I often ignore is being patronised when they first approach us for social media help. So just little things that I pick up on that I usually just ignore and give them the benefit of the doubt. But I think as time went on, I was not only being patronised, our team was, and we, especially in an industry like social media, that kind of theme can pop up quite frequently. So I guess working with clients who actually respect our industry, they respect that social media is just as important as anything else, and respect us as the experts. So trust us when they come in to work with us. They are hiring us, knowing that they are hiring us for a reason, and instead of, I guess, hiring us and then telling us how to do our job, if that makes sense.
Isn't she amazing? At 23, I love that, standing firm in who you are. Yeah, and they can just piss off the people who patronise you. It's like, you don't need them, right? Thank you, Jarrah. What about you, Judith?
There's two things. One is on the supply chain, the raw material. When your current supplier say to you, I'm sorry, we have to shut down, and that's, especially in our cases, that's special metal. So, what are we going to do? So what I've done is basically, during the time that they said, okay, we're going to come back with a different metal, but it's as good, if not better, I upskilled myself. I upskilled in social media selling and digital marketing. So that's one, as well as, of course, the logistics and shipping. FedEx, they increased the prices, UPS and all that. It's out of our control. So what are we going to do? Are we going to close our door or continue on with our, mission? But another thing that it seems to be is still ongoing, but I think I have found as well what to do is that because I myself try to say, look, I'm going to keep my people. It's about our human resources. I'd like to hang on to these people because it's COVID pandemic, I don't want them to lose their job and all that. And I keep hanging on and hanging on and hanging on. I think there's one point that I've learned on my business challenge is that when you see, because my husband say at second month of our new stuff is, Mom, she's not your champion, let her go. But I said, look, Dad, please give me a time to train her. She's got, her heart is in the right place and all that. After 10 months, I burnt myself out in training her. And then eventually I let her go. So learn to let someone go when it's not adding value to your
business. And it's
business.
not easy, okay? That's the part that's really hard. But what did Anton, what did you say yesterday?
Hire slow, fire fast, you get the staff you're prepared to tolerate.
That's it.
Thank
I love
you.
it. Hire
Thank
slow,
you.
fire fast. It's really good.
I hired this slow.
3 months trial, and you know within the first 2 weeks it's not going to work, they're not the right fit, flick them there and then. But give them the option at the beginning to let you know if they're not happy that they can leave, quite welcome to leave in the first 2 weeks as well. It's a two-way street.
She did not want to leave.
If I've been there 8 months, I've passed my trial period.
Yeah.
You would have known in the first few weeks it wasn't working out, true?
That's true.
I once had an employee that didn't even say good morning to me or my husband or anyone, because, and I'm like, morning, and it didn't answer me. And so it's really interesting what we accept, like what we tolerate, because it just wasn't really sitting right with me. Yeah. But we're dealing with humans. It's very hard.
Yes.
Thank you, Judith. What about you, Cara?
Oh, me?
Yes, sorry.
For me, it's manufacturing. So our problem is that we're Australian made. COVID hit, so suddenly we couldn't get our stock. So our fabric comes in and we have people help us make it. So our next, I guess, mission is to see if we can bring that in-house, if we can start manufacturing 100%. So that's huge growth. That's a huge, scary thought to actually take that on. But I'm sick to death of relying on others. So is that something we can do? And that would be awesome for the Blue Mountains.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
It would mean jobs and all sorts of things.
Yeah, so
amazing.
That's something that we're looking at. And COVID hit, and that huge growth I'm talking about is because so many other places couldn't actually get giftware or products because they were relying on shipping containers coming from overseas. So they all turned to us. So we were sold out.
Because you were
very
already
quick.
making here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a huge opportunity.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is exciting. But
It's
it would
really
be
exciting.
scary.
It's very
a bit scary.
Well, poor Anton's already saying, help me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So for you, it was the operations side of things.
Yeah.
Rebecca?
Okay. So what happened is in the middle of June, around say 2018, my business was actually growing fast. We were actually in the middle of preparing our biggest event, which is the Senior Royal Easter Show. So at that year, they had about over 800,000 people on that event. And during that time, I had a health scare. And I was being told I might have the possibility to have a very rare type of breast cancer. At that time, so the good news is I was healed actually after a month of in and out of the hospital doing the different, like the what do you call it, like a different testing and things like that. I was being told they couldn't find any cancer cell. But that month actually gave me a very good opportunity to think, because for the first time in my life, as much as it probably sounds like in a movie, like a cliche, I actually had managed to sit down. I actually grade my business, and I actually also grade my husband, okay, because I'm looking at where the business is at, and then I'm kind of person, I'm quite logical, so I start to think, okay, how much time will I have? Depends on what stage. And at that time, we're also in the process putting in to setting up a support system so that the business doesn't have to rely on me all the time. But it was not really complete. So I look at it and go, okay, what is my husband currently looking after? What area am I responsible? Could he learn that? Yes, he could. How much time would he need? Okay, and I look at how much debt we had, and I try to figure it out. I go, if I had too much debt, that means that my husband had much shorter time to make that decision, which will also mean he could make a decision that he might regret later. So as soon as I find out that I didn't have a cancer cell, I sat down with my husband and we made a decision that for the next, at least for the next couple of years, our focus will be on reducing the debt. So as much as we want to generate income, I want to keep the eyes on how much debt we have, and every time when I took on the debt, what affects on the business. So this was actually around 2018. And then the COVID hit. Okay, so after roughly about a year and a half, 2 years, I'll be honest with you, this actually led us to help with the cash flow, because when the COVID hit, we have a little bit of buffer to actually help us to think. So unlike other businesses I've seen, we actually had the time to sit down and to think about what the next step would be. So I suppose like what Anton shared this morning, it was kind of like blessing in disguise. So as much as I thought it was a scary moment, but it actually led me to actually looking at the whole operation and looking at the finance and actually make a decision so that when the COVID hit, we didn't need to actually panic and actually jump in and try to figure out what to do. We are able to sit down and actually focus on, okay, maybe we couldn't do face-to-face event, but then we will put our focus on purely on e-commerce and also sell our product on the third-party platforms such as Amazon and other platforms overseas.
Awesome. If you were starting out again in your business, or you were starting another business tomorrow, what is one thing that you, if like a do-over, you would do differently starting out? Let's just go down the line. Jarrah?
Oh, so many things.
Pick one, the big one. What would you do differently for all the people who've just started?
I think that I would invest more in my brand and invest more in my branding. So when I first started, I just designed my own little logo and didn't really put too much thought into it. And down the track, I ended up having to redesign the entire thing. And whenever companies come to us and they don't have really solid branding, and I don't just mean the logo, the look of the website, the colours, the fonts you use, I mean really understanding what is your purpose as a brand, what's your mission, what's your vision, and what's your brand personality, and how are you going to represent that, how are you going to get that out into the world. So I think having that brand strategy in place from the start is something I really wish I had.
Because you think it would have made who you attracted in...
Attract better clients,
Better? Yeah,
or
okay.
just, I guess it would have saved me a lot of money as well down the track, having to redo it all, and we had to change our name and everything, so...
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, good advice. Cara?
For me, I think probably accepting help and paying for help, two different things and both the same things. But I did everything myself for years, and that was it was great, it was fun. But also I feel like I probably would have got further along much quicker if I actually had someone there to help me, and I paid them and kind of invested, and then gave myself the time to be the designer, not to also be operations manager and the accountant, and every step of the way. And I think I probably would have saved a few years. Didn't save any dollars really, because we could have been further along perhaps.
Yeah, sometimes when you've got to outsource a big task and it's too expensive, but then 3 years later when you still haven't completed that task, it's like actually probably would be better to invest the money. Because I hear you.
Yeah.
Judith,
Yes.
if you were starting over, what would you do differently?
If I'll start all over again, but one thing that I think probably would like to share here before I answer that is that, like Rebecca, during the COVID pandemic, we did not also panic or shut our door because our foundation was right. So the first thing that really I would not change at all is that get your foundation right. If your foundation is right, no matter what, the economy, you as a family and you as a business would stay strong. But if I would probably change, or something that I would probably do from day one, is that I wish I have slowed down more, or probably I have maybe 1 week off from work, and I'll just say, I'm gonna analyze the flow from start to finish, and I will document it. They are now documented, but along the way, I got overwhelmed.
Your systems, because it's got to work
Yes.
when you're not there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Understand.
So I basically now created the business that it's profitable. It's not how big the brand is. It's not how many customers I have, but how many loyal customers we have, how many are no returns. To this date, I'm so proud that we've got 100% happy customers. We don't have returns. We have repeat customers. We are profitable. And now we're automating our business so that it can make money while we are sleeping, or even when I pass away. So it's my legacy that it can go. It's a generational cookware. It's a generational wealth. It's my legacy. So yeah.
Amazing. Rebecca?
Okay, if I will start over again, I think I will actually implementing the support system in the business much, much earlier. I think as a female, we tend to underestimate what the tasks involve, and we also had a tendency to try to do everything ourselves. And so I will actually try to be the supervisor of, like, the manager of the business, rather say actually doing everything. And that also leads to another thing is that I will also probably will be a little bit more open, have more open communication with my family, as well as probably I will try to go out seeking the collaboration much earlier stage. I think at the very beginning, sometimes I feel like, I just do everything myself, I just much quicker. I could go pretty fast, but probably doesn't go very wide. So I will actually that's another thing I will do is actually looking at who I can actually work together and work and seeking the support if I need it.
That's a little bit of a theme, do you notice? Just try to do it all myself. Who is guilty of that? Everybody put your hand up. Which is why we create this support system that we have. We've only got a couple of minutes. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask? Anton?
One of the common things I come across is as business owners, and we're customer-centric and customer-focused, but we forget that we're actually a customer of our suppliers. Have you ever assessed your own suppliers and your network, but stayed with someone because they were the ones who always supplied, even though you aren't happy with them?
Good question. Who'd like to answer that one?
I'll answer it. I've worked with a couple of different accountants, and one of them for the first 2 years, I kind of just stuck with him out of loyalty because he taught me in the early days how to set everything up. But I had a feeling that something was off. I don't know much about finances, so I didn't look at it, but I just had this feeling that something was off. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to end it. I'm going to move to this new accountant. And he found so many of these errors that had happened and so much money that I could have saved on tax and things like that. So I think absolutely, if it's really important to be looking at those relationships that you do have with your suppliers and the people who are in your network, and making sure that, yeah, they care about your business as much as you would care about somebody else's.
Awesome.
I think for us, because we had problems with manufacturers and relationships and things falling over, we constantly do check and refresh and do things like that. I am more ruthless these days, but at the same time, what I also do is abundance. So if there's a new job that's coming and I know these guys are kind of busy, let's try someone new. Let's see how they go. Let's apply a bit of pressure. Let's put some more on them. Do they want it? Do they like us? We do a lot of that. So sometimes the relationship finishes with others, but we always, I don't know, we've been pretty lucky, I think. We've got good people. And I think, as you were saying earlier, Anton, about checking in with them, talking to them, we do a lot of that. Send chocolate, we talk to them, it's good fun. And so, I don't know, we've done all right. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, do you girls quickly want to answer? Or you're good? We're good? We're good. I think that's the end of our panel. Is there any other burning questions? No? We're all a bit brain fried, but gee, you've been very insightful and very honest with your... has that been great to listen to them? It's very inspiring. Thank you so much. Thank you, girls.